So a couple weeks ago, one of the viewers said they would like to see more videos of different breeds that I might have here. I've got a bit of a cold right now, so if I sputter and hack, that's why. There's just kind of some crap going around the region, I guess, from everybody I talked to. And needless to say, I've got it. Got it from a friend of mine that I had to run on an errand. But these are Red Badge Tumblers. It's a historic British breed you do not see here in the United States that often. There's very, very few of them in the country. They've actually been imported several times to the country, most notably by the late Bill Pensom, who is kind of the guy who made them famous here. A lot of you old roller hands, you'll probably actually know quite a bit about Red Badge Tumblers. That it's largely believed that this breed, which is fairly closely related to the Birmingham roller, is the breed that actually got Bill Pensom kicked out of the Pensom Roller Club, which was named for him. And this is the legend behind them when he imported them in the late 50s or 1960s. He actually brought them over to show American fanciers what happens to the Birmingham roller when you breed them strictly for turn-based performance. And a lot of those supposedly died out. Nobody seems to know too much what happened to the ones that Bill Pensom brought over. But there were a couple of other imports later. And these trace back to a pair that was imported by Thomas Monson back in the 90s. And the story is he imported two pair. He imported a pair of what they call Maggies and a pair of Red Badges. And apparently the pair of Maggies actually died in quarantine, didn't make it, but a pair of Red Badges did survive. And most of the Red Badges that are left in the country, of which there are very, very few, descend from that pair that he worked on. And the correspondence shows, which I've got quite a bit of these records, shows that eventually he passed those Red Badge Tumblers to the late Gordon Jackson in Sacramento. And Gordon was an old English guy who was born in Birmingham, and needless to say, he was very, very familiar with the breed when he was a kid, and he had corresponded with Monson and said, I'd heard you have imported some. I'd really like to get a pair. And eventually what happened was that Thomas Monson, I guess he had too many irons in the fire at the time and too many birds, and he was really wanting to concentrate on his rollers, and he just had these Red Badges, and he had a couple of his own, and he had some farmed out with a local kid there in Utah. And needless to say, he got all the Red Badges and he sent them to Gordon. And Gordon bred him for quite a while. He bred him for 20 odd years, and he was about the only guy that flew any. And he had him there at this place in Sacramento. And before Gordon died, he gave a few to a friend of his named by the name of John Child. And John is a pretty good friend of mine. And when John was here last December, came up to see some relatives, he brought me 3 of them. He brought me a pair of Red Badges, and he brought a black badge hen that was basically a project bird that him and Gordon had been working on. They were trying to make some black badge tumblers, and they'd gotten a couple generations into the project. I still have her here, but this is the first pair I bred off of the pair from John. And these birds fly very low, and they kit well, and they make a lot of performance on the turn. They're not rollers, they're simple tumblers. Some of them do spin short, but for the most part, they kind of do everything but typically roll. Their specialty is flying low, tight kitting, and frequency. They are bred for turnstile performance. The idea is to get a full turn on the turn is the idea. They're sometimes known as Wolverhampton Tumblers also, as a collective. And they come in a lot of colors in the UK, but the red badges are among the originals. So here's kind of the provenance of these Red Badge Tumblers. This is some of the material that John Child sent me, and he says, this is written last year, Dear Kirby, regarding Red Badge Competition Red Badge Tumblers given to Kirby Jackson by John Child, December of 2021, 2015-206, Red Bull Orange-Eyed Cock, 28362, recessive red pearl bull-eye hen. When he says red pearl or red bull, he means they are odd-eyed. These two birds were pool bred from pairs in my loft. Within that pool were the following: 2015-206, 2018-807, 2015-353, 2018-813. My purebred pairs are down from Gordon Jackson. Gordon's purebred family was down from 8 competition red badges that Tom Monson gave Gordon in January of 1997. Tom lists them as follows. There's the list of birds. And these birds were all bred by Tom Monson at the time. All of the Tom Monson competition red badges are down from a single pair of birds that he imported from England around 1990, as he related to Don Cable in correspondence dated February 3rd, 2000. It is summarized below. A single pair of competition red badge tumblers came from Tom's friend Ben Clark of Bromsgrove, England. Ben had kept the competition red badges during the 1950s while he lived in Birmingham. At Tom's request, Ben got this pair of birds from a CRB fancier in Birmingham. This strain of CRB originated from Harry Sanders about 1910 and was cultivated by Billy Langford of Birmingham until he passed away in 1950. Tom writes of his recollection of first seeing these competition red badge tumblers at Bill Pensom's in Canoga Park circa 1960. Quote, they flew about 100 feet in the air and tumbled constantly. They flipped every 20 feet or so of horizontal flight. This performance style is how they performed in Gordon's loft and also in my loft today. These are a unique strain of tumblers, clearly distinct from Birmingham rollers or Pensom rollers. They've been kept pure for over 100 years. The Maggies have a bit of different genetics in them. I think they're actually penciled. So they also exist over there. If you go on YouTube and you look up Wolverhampton Tumbler pigeons, you'll find a couple English fellows with them who are still working with the breed over there. But needless to say, pretty rare breed over here. In addition to the ones that Monson imported, and I didn't know this, Rick Mee had told me that he actually got a pair from George Mason of roller fame and brought them over. So he's got a few. His aren't exclusively red badges. I talked to Rick about that. Cross-traded a little bit of information, sent him some of the original correspondence between Monson and Gordon and the other information. So there are a few around. They're just very, very rare. There's not very many. Nobody's, apart from Gordon Jackson, had flown any kits of them. And after Gordon died, unfortunately, the instruction he left with his son was apparently, he just said, take all my birds to the local poultry auction. And that was the end of them. That nobody knows really too far where they've went. He died here a couple years ago. And apparently all of his birds, which included these red badge tumblers and his black badge family, which were mostly Whittingham based, that he was really well known for, that he had worked on for many, many years. All those birds apparently just kind of got scattered to the wind. And I was fortunate to get from John not only a pair of red badges, I also got a pair of Gordon's black badges that came down from his, that I'm breeding a few of those, kind of to keep them around. But here, needless to say, here is a breed you really don't see very often, are these red badges. I'm going to be working in 2023 to hopefully breed enough to fly a kit of these up. See what they do in action. Don't have too many, but I've got a pretty good start off the one pair that I'm working with and working on putting those pairs together and seeing how I can maintain them and keep them going. But they're actually nice little pigeons. They've got a bit of a different head than a roller. A lot of them kind of have this frontal marking that this cock here has. They kind of have that blaze on the face. These are descendant from Billy Langford birds. Secondhand, through another breeder. And like I said, Thomas Monson, he went out and had a friend of his in Birmingham headhunt the breed. He specifically wanted to bring some over, just because he'd read a lot about him and heard a lot about him. So needless to say, he brought him over, and he couldn't stick with him for whatever reason. And Gordon got him, and now that Gordon's gone, me and John Child, we each have a few. John only breeds from 3 or 4 pair, but he's flown some small kits of them, and I'm going to be doing that hopefully in 2023. Hopefully get at least a small kit of these guys flying and kind of see what they do. But like I said, something you don't see very often. Very, very rare breed. Famous historical breed of flying tumbler in the UK. And they're very little known here in the US. It's mainly the roller fraternity knows about them, and it's mostly kind of something back in the historical footnote of the roller breed where a lot of people do know about them. But this is them, the Red Badge Tumbler, or what is commonly known as the Wolverhampton Tumbler. And like I said, go onto YouTube, type in Wolverhampton Tumbler Pigeon, and you'll find a couple other videos. You'll find that a lot of other flying breeds, they seem to be kind of becoming show pigeons now. People are breeding for different colors and markings, and there's colors that apparently didn't exist in the breed many, many years ago that have started to appear, like opals and reduced and stuff like that. But needless to say, this is one of the things I'm going to be looking forward to in 2023, is actually flying at least one small kit of these Red Badge Tumblers and seeing how they handle and seeing how they fly and seeing what they do. I've read a lot about them. I've never flown them myself, so we're going to see what they're made out of, and we'll go from there. So wish me luck on multiplying plenty of babies this coming year, and having good luck keeping them around long enough to get them to develop and start flying properly. So that's it. Thanks for watching.